episode of Quarantined Coaches. This time we got Coach Crabtree down at Florida Southern. How are you?
Doing good. How about you?
I am staying quarantined. Are you following the government's rules?
Yes, absolutely. With the exceptional walk around the neighborhood with my daughter on her new bike.
Yeah. Where's your daughter at right now?
Currently sleeping. So that's not.
That's why you're able to do this with me. Gotcha. Now I get why there was such a strict time frame.
Exactly.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's get this in then. So, I've known you for a while. I've watched you out there coaching, recruiting, and I think there's just hearing you talk, you say some great things. And I just wanted to get you to expand on camera about some of those. And one of the things that I always hear you talk about is daily routine. And it's something a lot of coaches talk about. What's the daily routine like for you, and what are some of the things that you think are important for a player's daily routine?
Basically for us, we like to get the schedule out early for our guys so they know what's coming up. It's extremely important to me to have that routine for them to know what they're going to be doing in practice before they get there. So, we have our little group me app that we put a picture in. We obviously have it posted in the locker room, so on. And, there's certain things throughout team defense and, skill sets and individual D and all that we do on a daily basis, base running and things like that. But I think more important for me is to see guys actually have their own daily routine as far as what they do to prepare themselves for practice or a game. And kind of some of the things that I always think of with that is, guys that get into the cage a little bit early and they have a specific routine that they're doing hitting wise. Obviously, me being a hitting coach, that's one of the first and foremost things that I look at, as well as working with my infielders. I like to see them do some certain things every day. But for me, those routines are extremely important just because whether you've had a good practice the day before, you're not feeling good that day, or you're feeling great, whatever those cases might be, your routine that you do every day is something that you can always fall back on. And I guess what I mean by that is, as a hitter, we had a senior this year who actually developed his own routine this year with it, and he started seeing a lot of success with it. Was he would go in there and do a top hand, bottom hand drill. You'd do a certain back hip drill that we have and that we've done in the past. And he would do those every day, the same amount of swings, the same amount of reps, like no more, no less, just to get himself in that good feeling and making himself feel prepared for the day. That is something that I see a lot of guys struggle with, in the fact that they get emotional with everything that they do. So when they get too emotional with things, they let those emotions take control of it, as opposed to always understanding and knowing, I've done my daily routine today. I've prepared myself for the day. I know as a baseball player, especially hitting wise, 3 out of 10 successful. So I'm going to go out there and not worry about what happened the day before, because I went back to my comfort with my daily routine and did what I needed to do. Even ground ball wise for infielders, just maybe doing some pick drills, things on their own that they know every day will set them up for success.
And so with that routine being so important, I see a lot of young guys out there who have that routine, right? But it's almost like they don't have a plan. They don't know the details that they're working on. Can you talk about that, the little things that matter in that routine?
Yeah, and that's something I preach to our guys a lot, and it's kind of comical because I say it so much that they actually start saying it back to me, especially if I mess something up personally, which obviously I'm human, so those things are going to happen, or I'll forget to post something or something like that. But kind of my little catchphrase with our guys is "win the details." So, anything that within that I mean is every little thing that you're doing, yes, like you said, it has to have a purpose. You can be doing a drill, but be doing it mindlessly, and there's no reason, no cause for it. But if you understand what you're trying to get with it, like a top hand, bottom hand drill, I want to stay inside it, hit a little line drive up the middle, or even hit it, to the opposite side of the net, just working on seeing it deep and getting a good bat path and things like that. Those are the little details that we talk about. When we're playing catch, are you playing catch mindlessly and just throwing it, or are you trying to hit your partner in the chest or in the head area every time? Those are little things that I think make every successful player and what leads guys to go into pro ball and then obviously major leagues All-Stars, Hall of Famers. Those are the little things that those guys do every day. They don't just go through the motions. You don't see Derek Jeter come up and get a game-winning hit just because. It's because he's done something every day for his entire career that got him prepared for that. And he wanted to make sure as he was doing that, he had a purpose, a plan, and was taking care of the details within those things. And that's what really separates, in my opinion, an average player from a great player. And it's having that understanding and going through those things. And as a coach, it's my job. I've got guys that are young men that we're trying to lead into being a man. That's part of my job. It's not just baseball, but it's helping these guys mature mentally and everything else. Because again, for me, and as every other coach probably tells their players, it's not just baseball. We're not just setting you up for baseball. Baseball is a product of what you're going to wind up happening in life. So those little things always matter. And that's why I always preach about that. And it even goes to the point of making sure your locker looks a certain way, making sure we're cleaning up all the baseballs, things are locked up, things are put in an organized fashion, because that, again, to me, goes back to every detail-oriented thing that needs to be done on a baseball field.
You're a pretty good recruiting coordinator. I've seen, well, for anybody who doesn't know, Florida Southern's consistently ranked as a top 25 team at the Division II level. A couple years ago, you guys pretty much went wire to wire as number one throughout the season. So you're pretty good at identifying talent. When I've dealt with you, you always ask me a question. The first question you usually ask me is, can he compete?
Yeah.
That's a different question than what a lot of guys ask first. Why do you ask that question?
It's pretty simple. I mean, you can have the best swing in the world, you can have the best arm action and throw the hardest, but at the end of the day, it comes down to you being in the box versus the guy on the mound, or vice versa. And when it comes down to that, who's going to win the battle? And the competitor, the one that wants it, is going to be the one that winds up winning that battle, 9 times out of 10. Sometimes it's obviously going to happen the other way, but it's the way that I look at it is, if I'm trying to recruit a player and I want a guy that wants to come in here, obviously the tradition of Florida Southern is there. It's a winning program. That's the way that we want to keep it. So what's going to help us continue to win is finding someone that knows how to compete. You may not have the prettiest swing, but if you compete and you get barreled to the ball every time, or you battle with 2 strikes and you find a way on base, that's a competitor. That's someone that's going to help us win. It's really no different than guys like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Derek Jeter. Those guys want to win. They want to compete every day. They drive and motivate those around them to become better competitors, because they create that culture on what they're trying to do. They want to win. They want to win the details. They want to succeed. They want to drive and motivate others. And they also want to be a servant leader in that, because they want to find out, what can I do to help this guy to be better, and then wind up being a better competitor with me. At the end of the day, that's kind of what creates that family-oriented, close bonded team. And we all know, if you want to go long and win, you got to have a good culture, and that culture is created by those that have that competitive winning mentality, that want to bring other people with them.
So there's things that we talk about that you just can't teach, right? You can't teach size. Right. Can you teach competitiveness?
You can, to a point. I think you can, to a point, but at the end of the day, and I'm lucky enough that I went through and got my master's in organizational leadership, and that was actually what my thesis was on. To a point, it was, can a trainer in a gym help someone lose weight? And it always came back to no. They can help with positive reinforcement, but at the end of the day, you have to have that internal want to do that. And that's where guys like Jordan, Brady, Jeter, you keep naming the list. Those guys that succeed in their sport have that internal drive that pushes them. So we have to find a way as coaches to create competitiveness within every practice that we have. But at the end of the day, it's got to be that person that really wants that, which goes back to the original question that you asked me. Why am I looking for someone that's a competitor? Because I already know that they have that within them.
Switching gears a little bit to the recruiting side of it, Division II baseball, especially in the Southeast, the Sunshine State Conference, and not just to call out that conference, but any competitive Division II these days, it seems like they're very heavy off of the JUCO recruiting and the D1 transfer recruits. What kind of impact do you think that's having on the game, and specifically, the high school kids that are trying to get find a four-year home right out of high school?
Yeah, well, and it's tough because I'm not speaking for anyone else in our conference, but I know that we like to get about 50-50 of each. Personally, I like high school kids because I have them for 3 to 4 years, and I can be with them every day, and I can help in their developmental process and everything else. But at the same time, if you want to win, you also have to be able to get that guy from a junior college that has 2 seasons under his belt, that's played X amount of games and has X amount of at-bats and, innings on the mound and so on and so forth, that has that experience. So that's where I like to try to blend those two into having that experience, but then also having that young man, who I think can really develop and blossom into something special. And we were fortunate enough to have that a couple years ago with a young man who's probably, as long as the draft keeps going like we all think it is, we'll wind up going. And we also have that with a kid that's a freshman this year who I think is a very special young man as well. So it's having those guys that you can have there that are going to be special, but then also being able to bring guys in that have experience that can help quicken that learning curve for that freshman. But
it's not an easy
freshman
balance.
just trying to find a place. It's got to be, the right thing.
You're right. Tough thing to balance at times, do you feel like?
Between the JUCO and the high school route?
Well, just building a roster that is a good balance of the two.
Yeah, I think at times it can be challenging because, some years you might have guys that you bring in that are probably more junior college plus that freshman class, and they're all kind of the same area. And then 2 years later, they're all leaving. So you leave and you lose 12 to 15 guys depending on the roster that year, and you got to try to replace them somehow.
Really what I'm trying to help do is educate young guys on how do we make the best decision possible.
Right.
And one of those things goes to the player that has maybe the Division III or the NAIA opportunity that seems very solid, and maybe they pass that up to go the junior college route and chasing that D1 dream eventually. Obviously this is all just kind of our own opinions and thought process, but hearing more of you guys is good for them and the different ideas that you have. How should a family go about, in your opinion, weighing their options? And when is it a good idea to say, hey, this is a good option for me versus let me chase the dream?
Right. And I think that's going to be different for each person. But at the end of the day, I tell this to recruits when they're sitting in our office and we know they're competing with someone else in our conference or junior college or D1. At the end of the day, your heart knows when it knows. And one thing I will tell people all the time is it's better to go somewhere where you are wanted than somewhere where you're not sure if you're wanted or not. And kind of the main thing I mean by that is if a place really wants you, they're going to invest as much time as possible into you, whereas another place, who knows, might not. And that could be a wrong thought process in my mind. But for me, if I was a current player, I would want to go somewhere that truly, truly wants me. And if they're going to give me, a good scholarship and it's a place that, I feel comfortable with and I get along with the coaches and I can build that relationship with them, because that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day anyway.
Right.
It's having that relationship and feeling that feeling of wanting to be there. And that's where I think your heart can kind of tell you that, hey, this is the right place because these guys really want me here.
I talk about if you have the feeling that you're chasing, that's not good.
Right.
In that if you send out emails or videos and 5 schools get back to you within a day and the others don't ever respond, like that tells you what you need to know. You don't need to send 5 more emails trying to get there. And Coach Chester, when I went to Gardner Webb on the college tour, had talked about, like, if they want you, they're going to chase you down to the parking lot.
Right. Correct. And that's basically what I mean is that if a school really wants you, if we really want you, I'm going to continue to be after you. I'm going to continue to talk to you. I'm going to continue to, come watch your games, do everything that I'm allowed to do, obviously. But again, it's it's that feeling of being wanted. And I think that's the most important thing that most players need to look at is do these guys really want me? Okay, they really do. They're calling me every week or every day, or they're still coming out to my games,
Right.
maybe, or they're, we're up at Lake Point in Atlanta and it's 2:00 in the morning and we're just starting our game and Coach Crabtree's still standing in the stands here to watch me. Okay, that guy really wants me.
Right.
That's kind of what I kind of see as far as finding the right place and the right fit. That to me is what that means is finding a place that truly wants you.
Great advice to end on, and you do a great job of what you do, and I appreciate it, Coach. You coming on here. I know that everybody kind of wishes that this segment I'm doing wasn't going on, but at least we could put something out there, and thanks for being a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me, and stay safe up there and stay inside.